The crime scene that reappeared. Every 10 years, the red stains were fresh. That was the first thing Deputy Mark Hollis noticed when he stepped into the cabin that night. The air smelled of copper and damp wood, and the faint hum of the forest outside pressed against the walls like a held breath. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing an overturned chair, a shattered lamp, and a clock on the mantel, frozen at 3:17 a.m. "Dispatch, I'm at the scene," he whispered into his radio. "You're not gonna believe this." The stains weren't just random. They followed the exact same pattern as the ones from 10 years ago, the 1995 case that had baffled every investigator in Ravenshade County. The same spatter on the wallpaper, the same dark streak on the floor, even the same cracked photo frame lying face down near the fireplace. But the cabin had been empty for years. No one was supposed to be here. Hollis crouched near the wall, his hand trembling as he touched the dried edge of one of the stains. It was still tacky, barely dry. "This can't be," he muttered. "This can't be real." Then the clock chimed once, just once. He froze. The gears inside it hadn't worked in decades, yet its hands twitched, moving a single minute backward to 3:16. The sound of soft footsteps came from upstairs. Hollis raised his gun, his voice shaking. "Sheriff's Department, who's up there?" No reply. Just another step, then another, slow, careful, like someone didn't want to be heard, but wanted to be noticed. He climbed halfway up the stairs, every creak echoing in his chest. The upper hallway was dark, but he could see the faint glow of a light at the end. The same bedroom where the 1985 case began. The air grew colder with each step, his breath turning white in front of him. When he reached the doorway, the light flickered and revealed the outline of a figure standing perfectly still in the corner. It wasn't moving, just watching him. "Don't move!" he shouted. The figure stepped forward, and the floorboards groaned. Hollis squeezed the trigger, but his gun jammed. The flashlight flickered once, and the figure vanished. Silence. Then, all at once, every window in the cabin slammed shut. The clock downstairs began ticking again. 3:17, 3:17, 3:17. Repeating the same minute over and over. Hollis ran down the stairs, calling into his radio, but all he heard was static mixed with a faint whisper that seemed to come from inside the walls. He turned in circles, panicked, until his flashlight beam caught something new. A word written across the wall in the same red substance. It said, "Again." Hollis's radio burst to life with a voice screaming his name, and then the line went dead. Outside, Sheriff Daniels waited by the patrol car, glancing at his watch. It was 3:17 a.m., exactly. But Deputy Hollis never came out, and when Daniels entered 5 minutes later, the cabin was empty. Clean, silent, untouched. No blood. No clock. No sign anyone had been there at all. Only one thing remained on the dusty mantel. Hollis's badge, gleaming faintly in the flashlight beam, frozen under a thin layer of ash. And behind him, the old clock chimed once, 3:17 a.m. When the report reached the county office the next morning, no one wanted to believe it. Deputy Hollis was known for being level-headed, the last person to get spooked by an empty cabin. Yet his cruiser sat parked by the tree line, lights still flashing, radio humming with that strange static, and he was gone. Sheriff Daniels stood in front of the cabin's porch, staring at the open door. "Seal it off," he ordered. "Nobody goes in until we get state investigators here." But deep down, Daniels already knew the truth. He had been there in 1995, 10 years ago. When the same cabin appeared covered in blood, the clock stopped at 3:17 a.m. He remembered the photos, the confusion, the scientists who said it was impossible. And now it had happened again. By noon, the FBI arrived. A small team led by Agent Claire Matheson. Quiet, analytical, eyes that had seen too many things she couldn't explain. She examined the interior carefully, comparing it to the old crime scene photos from decades ago. "Everything matches," she said. "Even the dust patterns. It's like someone copied the scene down to the molecule." "But there's no one here," Daniels replied. "No prints, no signs of forced entry. Hollis didn't vanish. He was taken." Matheson looked up at the clock on the mantel. It was clean now, but the faint ring of old rust around the glass still marked the exact time, 3:17. "What's the story behind this place?" she asked quietly. Daniels sighed. Back in '85, a man named Walter Griggs owned the cabin. He was found missing after neighbors heard screams. The scene was the same. Blood, overturned furniture, no body. Then it happened again 10 years later, exactly the same night. And now, every decade, Matheson finished. "It's like the crime resets." That night, the team decided to stay. They set up cameras, motion sensors, and microphones across the cabin. Matheson sat watches, stung the monitors, her eyes heavy but alert. The forest outside was unnervingly still. No wind, no insects, not even a distant coyote howl. Around midnight, the power flickered. "Generator's fine," one tech said, tapping the gauge. "Just a surge." Then, one by one, the motion sensors in the hallway started flashing red. First the kitchen, then the living room, then the stairs. "Something's moving," Matheson whispered. A camera feed on the top right monitor blinked, and for a split second they saw it. A man standing at the foot of the stairs, head tilted slightly, his outline barely visible through static. "Freeze it!" Matheson shouted. The tech hit pause, but when the frame stopped, the figure was gone, replaced by an image of the empty cabin. "Run the timestamp," she said. He hesitated. "It's 3:17 a.m. Then all the lights cut out. The monitors went black. And in the dark, every clock, digital, analog, wristwatch, even the phones, reset to 3:17 and began ticking backward. Daniel's voice cracked through the dark. "Agent Matheson, what's happening?" From somewhere upstairs, a faint sound echoed. The same hollow creak of footsteps that Deputy Hollis had heard. Matheson raised her flashlight, heart pounding. The beam trembled as she aimed it up the staircase. There, on the wall at the top of the stairs, something had been freshly written, dripping slowly down the wallpaper in dark red letters. "You shouldn't have come back." The message on the wall was still wet when Agent Matheson reached it. Her flashlight beam quivered over the letters, each one painted with unnerving precision, as if someone, or something, had taken its time. The other agents stood frozen behind her. No one spoke. "Check the cameras," she said softly. But the tech shook his head. "They're gone. Every recording, deleted, like it never existed." The generator hummed back to life a minute later, bringing faint light to the room. Yet something was wrong. The air inside the cabin felt off, heavier, almost like the atmosphere had thickened. Even their voices seemed muffled, absorbed by something unseen. Matheson walked toward the mantel where the old clock sat. Its second hand now moved in slow, deliberate ticks. Forward this time, but each tick echoed through the entire cabin. 3:17 a.m., she whispered. "Again." Daniels rubbed his temples. "This place, whatever's happening, it's not natural. I've seen crime scenes. I've seen murder-suicides. But this is something else." Matheson turned to him. "What happened to Griggs, the man from 1985? "Never found," Daniels said. "Some said he ran off into the woods. Others thought he was buried under the cabin, They dug for days. Nothing. Outside, the forest began to stir. Wind picked up, howling through the trees, shaking the shutters. Then came a low vibration, a deep, thrumming hum that seemed to rise from the ground itself. The same noise the neighbors once described back in 1985. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet. One of the agents shouted from the hallway, "Ma'am, you need to see this." They rushed to the back room, the one that had been sealed off since the first incident. The door was cracked open now, revealing a faint red glow pulsing inside. Matheson stepped in first and stopped cold. The entire room was covered with dozens of old photographs, nailed to the walls in neat, perfect rows. Every single one showed the same crime scene: overturned chairs, the broken lamp, the blood spatter, the stopped clock. Some were in color, some in black and white, some clearly decades old. "These photos, they go back before 1985, she murmured. "Look at the dates. 1975, 1965. Daniels's voice dropped to a whisper. "You're saying this scene's been happening longer than we ever knew?" Matheson turned to him slowly. "Every 10 years, like the town's been covering it up." One of the younger agents pointed to a small photo near the floor. "Ma'am, that's Hollis." She bent down. The photo was grainy but clear enough. Deputy Hollis stood in the center of the room, flashlight in hand, his face pale, his eyes wide in shock. Except the photo was old. The paper had yellowed, and the date printed on the back read 1995. Daniels backed away. "That's impossible. He wasn't even born then." Suddenly, all the lights in the cabin shut off again. Total darkness. The hum returned, louder this time, rattling the windows. The air grew ice cold. Then a faint whisper filled the silence. Dozens of voices overlapping, chanting something low and distorted. Matheson's flashlight flickered on for half a second, just long enough to see movement in the corner. A shadow was standing there. Not cast by anything, but moving on its own, tall and human-shaped. "Who's there?" she demanded. The whispering stopped. Then, from the darkness, a man's voice spoke clearly, hoarse but calm. "You were supposed to leave it buried." The flashlight died, and somewhere in the pitch-black cabin, the old clock began ticking faster, faster, until it sounded like a heartbeat. Then, silence. The silence that followed was thick, like the air itself was listening. Agent Matheson's flashlight clicked weakly, flickering to life in trembling bursts. Her pulse raced as she swept the beam across the room, expecting to see that shadow again. But now, the photos were gone. Every inch of the walls was bare. Clean wood, no nails, no frames, no trace that they'd ever existed. Daniels stumbled beside her, gasping. "Where are the others? The agents?" Matheson turned, but the room was empty. The tech, the junior agent, all their equipment, vanished. Only their footprints remained in the dust, leading in, but not back out. She pressed her radio. "This is Agent Matheson. Anyone copy?" Static. Then a faint whisper threaded through the static, just like before. But this time, it was a voice she recognized. "Claire, leave." Her blood ran cold. That was Deputy Hollis's voice. Daniels shook his head. "He's dead, Matheson. You know that." The whisper came again, louder now, echoing through every wall. "You can't stop it. It replays until someone replaces it." Then came the ticking. Not just from the mantle clock, from everywhere. Hundreds of invisible clocks ticking in sync, closing in around them. Matheson's flashlight caught the old clock on the mantle. Its hands were spinning wildly, faster and faster, until they landed once more on 3:17 a.m. Then, with a metallic click, it stopped. A gust of freezing air swept through the cabin, knocking the flashlight from her hand. The beam rolled across the floor and landed on a wet footprint. It wasn't theirs. Another appeared beside it. Then another. They trailed up the stairs, one after another, toward the dark hallway above. "Don't," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "Don't follow it." But Matheson moved anyway, each step creaking under her boots. The temperature dropped with every foot she climbed. She could hear faint breathing ahead, shallow, broken, close. When she reached the top, the light revealed a man standing in the same spot the figure had appeared years before. His clothes were torn, soaked in something dark. His head tilted just slightly, just like in the 2005 footage. "Walter Griggs?" she whispered. The man lifted his eyes. They were hollow, not empty, but echoing something, like she was looking through him into another time. His voice came out flat, emotionless. "It wasn't me. It was the house." And then, before her eyes, the cabin began to change. The wallpaper peeled itself back, revealing old wood beneath, charred and blackened. The furniture flickered between new and ancient, shifting like a film reel stuck between two frames. Downstairs, Daniel shouted, "Matheson! We need to go! Now!" But she couldn't move. The walls pulsed with that deep hum again, the sound of time collapsing. The clock struck 3:17 one final time, and suddenly, she was no longer standing in the hallway. She was in the 1985 crime scene. The furniture, the lamp, the overturned table, all of it exactly as described in the old files. Except now, she wasn't the observer. She was part of it. Blood smeared across her sleeve. A scream echoed from downstairs. Daniel's. Then everything froze mid-motion. The world went silent. Only the clock ticked. 10 years later, 2015, when the Ravenshade Sheriff's Office reopened the case, they found the cabin exactly as before. Blood on the walls. The clock stopped at 3:17 a.m. But this time, 2 new names were added to the missing persons file. Deputy Mark Hollis, Agent Claire Matheson. And when the evidence team reviewed the photos from the new scene, one image showed something strange. A reflection in the mirror above the fireplace. 2 figures standing side by side, watching the investigators from the corner of the room, both of them wearing sheriff badges. The clock behind them read 3:17 a.m., and the words scrawled faintly beneath the glass said only, "Again."